Thanks, Sophie. Hello, I'm Jennifer Jones with the headlines in Wales. It's one of their flagship policies, and tonight the Welsh Government has promised to publish more details on its free childcare offer before the summer. It follows pressure from opposition parties about the cost in a heated Senedd debate.
Our central estimate stands at £587 million, almost 50% more than Plaid Cymru's figure.
What we are saying is we need a plan. We are having experts to help us phase this.
Plaid Cymru avoids defeat in a vote on its flagship policy with the help of the Welsh Conservatives. Reform are furious.
Also in tonight's programme.
I'm the doctor, by the way. What's your name?
Rose.
Nice to meet you, Rose. Run for your life.
It's been filmed in Wales for 20 years, but the Doctor Who Christmas special is cancelled. The BBC says it'll secure the show's long-term future. It was introduced to help tackle litter and antisocial behaviour, but an overnight parking ban in Eryri is paused as people tell us it made things worse. And we meet the young stroke survivors who are planning a big event to help others on their journey to recovery.
It's to give back to other people as well, people who may be in hospital now who aren't seeing what life could look like, feeling that hopeless way that I was feeling when I was in hospital.
Good evening, noswaith dda chi. A huge expansion of free childcare was arguably Plaid Cymru's biggest commitment during the Senedd election campaign. And today they've promised to publish more details on that policy before the summer recess in July. It comes after a debate and vote in the Senedd earlier today, where ministers were put under pressure to give more details about the plan, especially around the cost. Reform say they believe the rollout will cost significantly more than the £400 million that Plaid Cymru originally claimed. Labour and the Tories have also called on the new Welsh Government to publish their costings. Our political editor Gareth Lewis joins us now from the Senedd. Gareth.
Jen, significant first test this for the new Welsh Government after Reform called for those full costings and rollout to be published. The result wouldn't have been binding if the government had lost, but it won. Nonetheless, pressure brought to bear by the opposition parties, and we will now get that commitment to more details being published before the summer recess towards the end of July. Look, they've avoided then, Plaid Cymru, an awkward defeat on an issue that they put front and centre of what they stand for.
Looking for free childcare in Wales isn't necessarily straightforward. There's a scheme for 3- and 4-year-olds if you meet certain criteria. There's care for some 2-year-olds in eligible areas, although that is being rolled out across the whole country.
Oh,
That's a full cup of tea.
A new offer was Plaid Cymru's flagship election pledge. At full rollout, it would cover every child aged 9 months to 4 years, 20 hours a week for 48 weeks of the year. The existing offer of 30 hours a week for parents in education, employment or training would also be honoured. The aim? To help with the cost of living, help parents back into work and give children the best start.
Plaid Cymru says the new offer is likely to cost £400 million a year by the end of the Parliament. But during the Senedd election campaign, there were questions over when it would be rolled out, how Plaid Cymru came to that figure, whether cuts would need to be made elsewhere in order to pay for it, and whether it might actually cost more. Those questions have now made it today to the floor of the chamber in the Senedd.
Reform didn't have a childcare offer in their manifesto, but want to see full costings and timetable from the government. They've also done sums of their own, albeit assuming an annual inflation rate of 4% and an increase in Welsh Government subsidies to fund nurseries for 2-year-olds and under.
After taking into consideration details such as childcare costs rising due to higher demand, as well as the pull this policy will have for young families across the UK, we predict it will cost well over £400 million. Our central estimate stands at £587 million, almost 50% more than Plaid Cymru's figure.
Labour repeatedly queried how Plaid Cymru would pay for its plans during the election campaign, and did so again today.
Plaid Cymru must show where that funding will come from. Does that mean other initiatives will be cut? Who are the people that will lose out? And when will they find out?
The Conservatives also called for costings to be published.
If a policy is genuinely affordable, then publishing those full costings should strengthen confidence in it, not weaken it. If it is not, then the public deserves to understand what choices are being made elsewhere in the budget to pay for it.
So what will the Welsh Government do? It says details of initial costings and rollout will come and hit out at reform.
But you kept on saying that, it's about, we have to, have data, we have to have a solid plan, we need mechanisms. That's exactly the work we're doing. That's exactly the work we're doing. We are not jumping off a cliff like your party did during Brexit and saying all will be well. What we are saying is we need a plan. We are having experts to help us phase this.
In the end, Reform's call for full costings and timetable was defeated. But there is now that commitment from the government to publish initial costings and timetable before the summer break. Plaid won today, but getting their way in this newly expanded Senedd, given the arithmetic, was not child's play. And look, the Welsh Government will now need to move quickly as time ticks by through to recess. There are bigger votes and deal-making to come. We could also get a supplementary budget, so in-year changes to the annual budget within a matter of weeks. That'll be Plaid Cymru really setting out its stall, but it knows that it will need support from other parties for that to pass a vote in the Senedd. And talking of support, there's political intrigue here this evening as well, because Plaid avoided defeat with the help of the Welsh Conservatives, who say they support expanded childcare and that they campaigned for it during the Senedd election campaign. That's led to a furious response from Reform, who've been denied, I suppose, the ability to crow about a victory this evening. Social media from Reform MSs awash with pretty much the same thing. Vote Conservative, get Plaid.
OK, Gareth, thank you very much. Gareth Lewis there at the Senedd. Now, a court has been told that a child murderer was stabbed more than 30 times in his prison cell by fellow inmates and left to bleed to death in his bed. Kyle Bevan was found dead at HMP Wakefield last November. He was serving a life sentence for murdering his partner's 2-year-old daughter, Lola James, in Haverfordwest in 2020. Mark Fellows, David Taylor and Lee Newell all deny murder. The trial at Leeds Crown Court continues. A cafe owner from Denbighshire has told a jury an accusation that he raped a teenage girl in an alleyway was, in his words, mind-boggling. He's one of 4 men from Rhyl facing charges of sexual exploitation and trafficking teenage girls. The defence cases in the trial got underway earlier today at Carnarvon Crown Court, and just a warning, you may find some of the details in George Hurd's report distressing.
After some 5 weeks of prosecution evidence against 4 men and a woman, today was the first chance for the jury to hear from some of those accused of sexually exploiting the alleged teenage victims in Rhyl. 2 of the girls were aged 14 and 15, with claims they were supplied with cannabis in return for sexual favours. The court heard allegations another girl, who was 16 at the time, was also raped and exploited by defendant Mustafa Iqbal, who's accused of sexually abusing all 3 girls, which he denies. However, the jury was told today by his barrister that Iqbal would not be called to give evidence in person in court. Today, the first of those to answer questions was Mohammed Usman Arshad, a local cafe and chip shop owner in the town. Along with charges of conspiracy to traffic 2 girls and supply them with cannabis, he's accused of 3 rapes involving the 15-year-old, known as Child B, to protect her identity. Asked directly if she had performed oral sex on him in an alleyway behind the cafe, he said the claim didn't make sense. It was mind-boggling. The married businessman, who's 36, said the area was covered in CCTV cameras. His mother and father were working in the chippy next door, and his wife often came to the cafe. He said at the time of the alleged offence, the cafe would have been busy, as he was competing for the title of Ryl's Friendliest Cafe, a title he told the jury he won. He said he'd be risking it all if the rape claim was true. However, under further questioning from his defence barrister, Arshad admitted to taking Child B for drives around the town, where at one point he'd given her a cannabis cigarette. He also said he'd kissed her in the car, but asked if there'd been more sexual contact than that, he said no. He also denied there'd been a sexual assault in the car or at the home of Mustafa Iqbal involving Child B. The trial here in Carnarvon is continuing. George Hurd, BBC Wales Today.
The Sustainable Farming Scheme, a greener approach to agricultural subsidies after Brexit, was one of the last Labour-run Welsh Government's flagship policies. But figures released today show that just half of Welsh farmers applying for subsidy this year have decided to opt into the new scheme. Our environment correspondent, Stefan Messenger, is here. And Stefan, well, run us through the data.
So, Jen, the Sustainable Farming Scheme, the SFS, is the big protest hit shake-up of farming subsidies to reward more environmentally friendly ways of farming years in development since Brexit. It finally launched at the start of this year, so before the election. Today we've had the uptake figures, as you say, from the new Plaid Cymru Rural Affairs Minister Llyr Griffith. And it's roughly a 50-50 split between those opting to join the new SFS and those sticking with their old subsidies this year, even though they'll lose 40% of their funding by doing that. The Farmers Union of Wales told me today, look, that shows the new scheme still needs work. WWF Cymru, other environment groups making the point that actually a lot of land is now covered by this new scheme, so close to 1 million hectares being farmed by farmers who are in the SFS. And this was Llyr Griffith's take in the Senedd.
I'm committed to evolving this scheme, the Sustainable Farming Scheme. I'm on the same page as the farming unions here. You know, it's evolution, not revolution. I think it's quite positive, actually, that half the applicants have chosen to go into the Sustainable Farming Scheme. So I'm more of a glass half full person than a glass half empty person. But I will be listening to views.
Yes, so Llyr Griffith there answering questions for the first time in the Senedd in his new role. The controversial topic of badger culling also came up.
It did. Andrew Arty-Davies of the Welsh Conservatives making the point that there were now 3 parties in the Senedd, by which we assume he means Plaid, the Tories and Reform, who would likely vote through and support action to tackle TB in badgers as a way of trying to get to grips with this disease that's plaguing cattle herds across parts of Wales. Vicky Howells, the Labour spokesperson on rural affairs, very much opposed to that, saying there was not the public support for slaughtering badgers, she said. But Llyr Griffith making the point that thousands of cattle are slaughtered every year as a result of TB, and the debate around this needed to be more balanced, he said. He emphasised, though, that it didn't mean kill all badgers on his watch, and he'd be listening to what a group of experts set up by the last government to advise on all of this would have to say when they report in due course.
OK, Steph, thank you. Stefan Messenger there. This is Wales Today, still to come in the programme before 7 o'clock. A ban on overnight parking at some sites in Wales's biggest national park has been paused just 2 months after it was introduced. We've been finding out why.
And so much for flaming June. Flaming awful tomorrow. Low clouds and heavy rain spreading eastwards during the day. Thankfully, the weekend looks better. Much drier and warmer with lighter winds, but not as warm as we were thinking it might get.
Well, it's been made here in Wales for more than 20 years, but today the BBC has announced it's looking for a new company to co-produce the next series of Doctor Who. In recent years, the sci-fi series has been made with Cardiff-based production house Bad Wolf. Writer and producer Russell T Davies has also confirmed that he will be leaving, and we now know there won't be a Christmas special this year either. Our reporter Yola Chung has the story.
I'm the Doctor, by the way. What's your name?
Rose.
Nice to meet you, Rose. Run for your life.
It's one of the BBC's most well-known series globally, and when it returned to our screens in 2005, it did so as a Cardiff-based production. It also became an instant hit, with fans old and new.
You've had some pretty scary moments. You've chased away the Daleks.
I was just going to say, you're quite scared of the Daleks, aren't you?
I am. I always go and hide behind the sofa.
You do?
Yeah.
But after 15 series and 6 different Doctors, the latest one, Ncuti Gatwa, announced last year he was leaving the show. With no replacement announced and the planned Christmas episode now cancelled, there's uncertainty over its future.
I think it's a huge announcement. I think it's a huge loss. And I think a lot of the success that Cardiff especially has seen, but also I think Wales more broadly, started with Doctor Who coming here in 2005 when it first sort of came back. Fans are annoyed that they were kind of promised something that they're not going to get with the Christmas special. I think there's a lot of kind of disappointment about that. I think people are preparing for this to be quite a long break. and for the series to not come back for a good few years.
Merry Christmas!
The BBC said today that the Christmas episode had been axed after careful consideration, with focus instead on investing in the show's long-term future. Since the show landed here in Cardiff over 20 years ago, it's had an effect on the area beyond just the creative industries. One report found that between 2004 and 2021, the series contributed £135 million to the Welsh economy. But today's announcement means a parting of ways with Cardiff-based production company Bad Wolf and Russell T Davies, the screenwriter and producer who revived the show. In a post on Instagram today, he said that it is goodbye from me, but hello to a big new future for Doctor Who. He added that no script or actor had been lined up for the Christmas special, but assured fans the wait for a new series would be worth it. The BBC will now put out a new tender, while plans for an animation series for CBeebies remains in production. But it could be some time before we see who that new Doctor is, and whether their TARDIS will be returning to Cardiff.
Well, it's rather stunning, isn't it? But a ban on overnight parking at 9 car parks in Eryri National Park has been paused. But members of the Park Authority have made it clear they want to see greater urgency in drawing up proposals for how to deal with the growing issue of campervan and motorhome owners parking overnight for free in areas where there are no facilities for them. Brendan Williams is in Llyn Tegid for us tonight. Brendan.
Thanks, Jen. Welcome to beautiful Bala, a slightly choppy Llyn Tegid. A few vehicles parked over there behind me. They will not be allowed to stay here overnight because here and at one other car park just up the road, it is not considered essential to park overnight in order to enjoy what's on offer here. But at 9 other car parks where a ban was introduced in April, that ban has now been paused. And on the face of it, that might appear to be quite a swift U-turn. Living the dream, hitting the open road and seeing where it takes you until... With many people setting off on hikes in the early hours to catch a mountain sunrise, overnight parking was banned at 11 sites in April following litter problems and antisocial behaviour. Daisy Drew and her fiancé from Norfolk weren't aware of the ban when they arrived in Betws-y-Coed, leaving them with a dilemma.
Go get a coffee and think of plan B and just try and work it out, and if not, we'll just have to find a campsite anywhere that will take us.
There were concerns the ban would force people to park in residential areas, something Daisy would rather avoid.
Sometimes it just doesn't look nice and it gets crowded, and the thought of just being in the way, and I'd rather be a bit more respectful and go somewhere that's more fitting for us. But I do see why people do it, and when there's no other option, there's nothing else you can do. So if we have to, we would, but it's not my first option.
Unlike Daisy, some campervan drivers don't think twice about parking up in streets. Guest house owner Richard Edwards says it's long been a problem, which the ban has made worse.
First of all, they restrict access because they sometimes park on the pavement. Secondly, they leave their rubbish behind, sometimes in people's gardens, sometimes frequently in our car parks, and they even relieve themselves in our gardens and car parks.
Richard wants the restrictions rescinded. The Park Authority hasn't gone that far, but today it agreed to pause the ban at 9 of the sites, which will be welcomed by another Betws-y-Coed businessman who says trade has dropped slightly in the 2 months it's been in force.
First and foremost, by banning something doesn't necessarily make it goes away, okay? So instead of banning, work with what we've got, build theirs, build facilities or allow people to have who've got land to allow that access. And the reason why it's not good for the area is because it'll just drive tourism away.
This afternoon, the authority's chief executive defended suggestions the ban risked making visitors feel unwelcome.
We're actually opening up the car parks for people to visit the mountains and see the sunrise and the sunset and the dark skies, and we're encouraging people to go into and use the dedicated caravan and camping sites. The only thing that we're trying to stop really is the unauthorised use of the car parks for people staying for free with no facilities.
A report discussed today recommended keeping overnight restrictions at 2 sites near Bala where nighttime parking isn't considered essential for the general enjoyment of the area. But for now, the brakes have firmly been put on plans at the other 9 car parks, at least until later this year. Now, I mentioned earlier that this might appear to be quite a swift U-turn, but when we spoke to the chief exec earlier, he pointed out that you've never really been allowed to park overnight in these car parks. It's just that it wasn't enforced prior to April. So there is an argument that actually overnight parking just got a bit easier. What happens now? Well, they'll monitor things over the summer. A task and finish group will then be set up. There'll be a meeting planned in December, and then a decision will be made possibly next year, Jen.
OK, Brendan, thank you very much. Brendan Williams there in Bala. Well, now to the remarkable story of these 3 young women from Carmarthenshire, all stroke survivors and now close friends. Eryri and Carrie Davis first met while recovering on a hospital ward before reaching out to Nia Tyler on social media. Well, together they're raising money to hold a ball to help other survivors meet each other. Our communities correspondent Kate Morgan went to meet them.
3 friends catching up over coffee, hoping to connect more young people with similar stories.
Even a family from my TikTok and they're like, oh yeah, we're coming with our daughter. Oh, isn't that like amazing?
Nia was studying at university when she started to feel unwell. Days later, at 20, she was told she had had a stroke when the blood supply to part of the brain is cut off. She moved back home to recover, living with fatigue and feeling isolated. The professional singer has slowly rebuilt her life, changing careers and connecting with Mez and Carrie.
I felt really isolated. I did feel like I was the only person in the world going through this. And now, thankfully, I've now got friends who were in a super similar situation, and we're all stroke survivors. And even though our stories are very different, there's always something about it that there's some unwritten understanding that there's some kind of like sisterhood amongst the 3 of us.
Home in Lampeter can sometimes feel like a world away from Mez's time as a dancer in Dubai. The 30-year-old was working there in 2021 when she had a stroke. Returning home to recover was a shock. She was on a hospital ward for months, where she first met Carrie.
I remember the nurses coming into my room and they're like, oh, there's another young person that's had a stroke.
She's been documenting her rehab online, posting her progress to help others.
It's about that there is a life after stroke, like your life doesn't just end and you can have a good life, whether, like, if you've got right side weakness, you can still do things, you can still, like, go out and have food, you can still go out to, like, concerts, you can do everything. You might look different, but you can still get everything out of life.
In the UK, there are over 100,000 strokes annually. According to the Young Stroke Study, approximately 10 to 15% occur in individuals categorised as young, which is between 18 and 50 years old. That means around 10,000 people under the age of 50 have a stroke in the UK each year. The Friends are now raising money to put on an event later this year to help connect other young stroke survivors. For Carrie, who had her stroke in 2022, it's important to build friendships with people who can really understand.
It's to give back to other people as well, people who may be in hospital now who kind of aren't seeing, you know, what life could look like, are kind of feeling that hopeless way that I was feeling when I was in hospital. And it's giving them the chance to connect to other people, to have that understanding.
Together, they now feel ready to give back, to help others, perhaps taking the first steps of their recovery, feel less alone.
Well, a quick bit of sports news for you. And Wales captain Ben Davies has signed a new 1-year contract with Tottenham Hotspur until the end of next season. Davies' current deal was due to expire at the end of the month, and he was set to leave the club. But now the 33-year-old Wales international, who joined Spurs from Swansea in July 2014, will take his stay at the North London club into a 13th year. OK, let's get the weather forecast now. Better weather on the way, but not tomorrow, Derek.
Certainly not tomorrow, Jen. It's looking a bit grim tomorrow, actually. Heavy rain, drizzle, lots of low cloud, mist and hill fog as well. We're still on course for some better weather over the weekend, drier and warmer. The forecast, though, has changed a little bit. We're not expecting toasty temperatures on Sunday, more likely the high teens or low 20s Celsius. Temperatures today have once again been below normal, only 13 degrees in Ebbw Vale. Heavy showers in Cardiff Bay and Penarth earlier this morning, but a drier and brighter afternoon in Aberystwyth with sunny spells and cumulus clouds. Mostly dry this evening, bar 1 or 2 light showers. Then after midnight, cloud will increase with outbreaks of rain in the west spreading eastwards during the early hours. Lowest temperatures 8 to 11 Celsius. Tomorrow then, the weather takes a turn for the worse with a soggy warm front moving its way eastwards and the jet stream right on top of the UK. So a bit of a dismal day tomorrow, it has to be said. Grey with outbreaks of rain, some heavy rain spreading its way eastwards, some wet weather, lots of low cloud, mist and hill fog giving some poor visibility. The rain easing off during the afternoon, but still some damp weather and drizzle into the evening, and feeling more humid tomorrow with southwesterly winds, the high around 18 Celsius in Wrexham. On into Friday, again plenty of low cloud, patches of light rain and drizzle, but it should, all being well, brighten up in the north into the afternoon. It's going to be a mild and muggy night into Friday. Plenty of cloud, as you can see, some damp patches, but improving in the north on Friday afternoon. Still quite breezy with a high of 20 Celsius in Monmouth and Wrexham. Now, we do have a wriggly weather front over southern Britain on Friday. That will move away, and then this high pressure is going to build northwards over the weekend. Cool air in the north, warmer air towards the southwest. So it's an improving picture over the weekend, drier and brighter with some sunny spells and lighter winds. Certainly no heat wave, but temperatures higher than we've been used to for some time, rising into the high teens or low 20s Celsius. 23 in Cardiff on Sunday afternoon. That's 73 Fahrenheit. Here's the summary then. A very disappointing day to come tomorrow. Certainly not feeling like summer. Heavy rain, low cloud and drizzle, but something more cheerful over the weekend. Drier and warmer with some sunny spells. Jen.
Derek, diolch. Well, let's get a reminder of our top stories before we go. The Plaid Cymru Welsh Government has promised to publish more details on its flagship childcare policy before the summer recess next month. Following pressure from opposition parties, Deputy First Minister Sioned Williams told MSs that they'd be updated on the plans before the middle of July. And that is Wales Today for now. We'll be back at 10:30. I hope you can join us then. Bye-bye.